Alright guys, hey, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another pickups video. A video that I wasn't planning on doing near the end of August. It is the 24th, I believe. As I sit down to do this, I had planned on doing a July pickups video separate from August. But I had 3 things to show after the end of July, and I was pissed off because I thought I was going to have 2 additional things, which I now have to show for July and August, as they came in August. But hopefully, a quick story here. 2 of the games, and I'll point them out when I get to them. I had 2 games that I thought were going to be shipping to me in July, according to an email that I got from Limited Run at the end of June. June 27th, I got an email. One of the 2 games it was actually saying was going to ship in August. I just lumped them together for some reason. But the other game, the one that I was really waiting for the most, it said it was coming, and it said in the email that it was going to be shipping in July. So I waited, and then it got to the end of July, and no such luck. And I started inquiring about it on the Limited Run Discord, and I kind of got some wishy-washy type answers, but anyway, doesn't really matter. I just decided that 3 games for one pickup video was just not enough. Now I've got 7 games to show, so that's a little bit better of a pickup video. So anyway, I'll go ahead and get started on this. This is about half of this is Limited Run. Well, 4 of the games is Limited Run, and 3 of them are just standard retail pickups. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the first thing I wanted to show here. This is a game called 10 Dates. I don't have it easily available to grab and show, but a couple years back I got a game from Limited Run that was called 5 Dates, and it was from Wales Interactive, which is this game developer that is creating full motion video style games in the 2020s, similar-ish to the old 90s FMV games that I used to really like. These are a lot cleaner, they're a lot more professional looking. They still kind of lack in terms of acting and writing and all that. But I never have played 5 Dates yet, but when 10 Dates came out as a sequel to a game that was basically about people trying to date online during the pandemic, and then 10 Dates is supposed to be the follow-up that's like, all right, the pandemic has lessened, or, you know, in some people's minds is just over, so now they're dating for real after their experiences during the pandemic. But that's the first one that I picked up there. That's 10 Dates. And next thing I have here is a game called Colossal Cave. Now this is some sort of revamped version of an old game that, if I remember correctly, is from the mind of Roberta Williams from the ever popular Ken and Roberta Williams Sierra Online old school games. And even though this says it's from Cygnus Entertainment, I imagine that's sort of like whatever their new development label is. But it is a game that I'd only ever heard of in name for many, many years. I had no idea like what the gameplay is about. If I had to put some sort of a descriptor on what this game's gameplay is like, it's first person, and you are kind of moving in a 3D space, but it looks like it might have been based on something that was a little bit more still in motion from back in the day, maybe like an old dungeon crawler or a Myst style game. It does say on here, explore 14 massive regions, solve logic-driven puzzles, and discover hidden secrets. I know that there was some sort of an improvement or an update to this after even the original version of this updated version of the game. But I haven't played it yet. I'm still currently playing Fallout 4 and have been since the late part of April. I'm just not getting to play a whole lot, but it's getting better. I may talk about that in another video, I'm not sure. I hate that I've spent so many months this year without beating anything new. But anyway, there's Colossal Cave. Alright, so this is going to be the first of the 2 limited run games I was talking about before. And this is Midnight Fight Express. This is I called it a stylish brawler made by one guy from Poland, I believe. And it's sort of a top-down Sifu type game. I mean, the reason why I hearkened Sifu, I've never played Sifu, but I remember when it came out, I watched trailers for it, I saw people play the game. This game here does not have the age up mechanic where every time you die your character ages up a few years and you have to try to beat the game and take care of what you're working on before your character gets too old to do it. But rather, this game has a very elaborate and detailed fighting system that the fighting flows in such a natural way, being able to like do melee attacks on somebody and then push them into a like a wall, or pick up an item and hit them with it, or push them into, say, like a table and they realistically fall on the table. Like, all of the combat in it is so appealing to me, and that doesn't happen to me very often. Sifu had beautiful looking combat, but it's supposed to be a very difficult and hard game, so I haven't picked it up yet because I'm not so sure I want to get into a difficult style game like that. I don't need to buy it right away and rush into it and then be frustrated by how difficult it may be. But I don't think Midnight Fight Express has that same level of difficulty, so the combat is way more appealing to me. Just the idea of just how cool it looks. Like I said, fighting hand-to-hand, melee combat, weapons, including things like guns and whatnot, but swords and just picking up stuff off the ground and throwing it or hitting somebody with it. It just has a really beautiful fight style. Engage in a hyperkinetic brawling ballet, master blockbuster fighting techniques, clean up cronies and crime lords. I don't know, it just looked super cool. And so that was a few years back. It kind of came out around the same time as Sifu. And then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, it's like, hey, Limited Run is doing a physical for this. So I couldn't pass that one up. Super excited to get that one. But that was the one that Limited Run said in the email wasn't going to ship until August. But I got it tied up with another game that I'll show at the end. Now I'm going to show the 3 retail games that I picked up. This first one here is Valkyrie Elysium from Square Enix, another installment in the Valkyrie franchise that started with Valkyrie Profile back on the PS1. I had a lot of people tell me on Facebook that it's like, you don't have to play all these games in order, they don't really connect to one another. This is almost a franchise in name only, which is fine and all that, but I would rather play all of them in order because that's just how I am. But Valkyrie Profile it's a high-priced PS1 game that I did not pick up back in the day. I think even by the time I had seen Valkyrie Profile and was aware of it, it was already a pricey game. But this was $20 from Video Games Plus, and whenever I can get cheap deals on some of the titles on PS4 that I've missed when they came out, then I just go ahead and jump on them. So this will go into the backlog, and who knows when it'll get played. Just happy to have it for a decent price. And speaking of that, here's the next installment in the Trails series. Another series where I'm always happy to get these at regular price, because they don't tend to be anything other than standard retail at launch, and then they go up in price. If I looked on my GameEye app right now, probably every single one of these Trails games from the last 4 or 5 years that I've picked up for PS4 are all pushing towards $100 or more. Now, whether or not that's what they're actually selling for is hard to say. but I just don't want to pay more than asking price. These also seem to be coming along a lot more frequently now. Trails Through Daybreak is here, and Tales Through Daybreak 2, I think it's one of the first times that this series, well, one of the first times since, I guess, the Cold Steel series did 4 separate games. But this is the first one in a while where they're going to have a direct sequel. That's supposed to be coming out like next year. I wish they'd give some of us a break and let us get caught up on buying the whole series. But anyway, Trails Through Daybreak, there's that. Happy to have that. One of these days I'll get started on this series once I'm able to easily access all the games, and then I can actually talk about them. Whether or not I think they've been worth all this hype that's been drummed up. So now I'm going to show what would have been the main event title to show for July if I had done that video. It's second to last game because the other limited run that I was waiting on, in the one that was supposed to come in July, that's my actual highlight game for this video. So this is Baldur's Gate 3 for the PS5. This is the I don't even know if they call it anything special, because this was the only way that Larian released the NTSC version of this, was in this big box version. I'm trying to see if we've got anything on here that even specifies all the goodies that are in this. Actually, I don't think that they do. I just know, I know that there's extra stuff. I just wanted this game on a physical release. It's a PS5 game. This is my second PS5 game in my collection. It technically qualifies as, in my heart, as the first, because this was the first one that I really planned on getting. My first PS5 game was I don't even remember the name, Edge of Eternity or something like that. And, excuse me, I got a PS5 copy of that by mistake. Amazon, I ordered a PS4 version, and they sent me a PS5 copy. But like I said, in my heart of hearts, this is my first PS5 game, and I couldn't have any other way than to get the physical release of Baldur's Gate 3. This was one of those high-profile PS5 games that came out, had massive buzz, Game of the Year award nominations. I think it won that honor at the Game Awards last year, and it didn't have a physical copy. Alan Wake 2 was one, but now that's getting a physical copy. And there are other ones that we're hoping things like this will maybe convince some of these other publishers to put them on a disc. So, yeah, that's Baldur's Gate 3. I entertained originally maybe doing an unboxing of this in this video. Maybe if I had done it last month with only 3 games, I would have done it. I think I'll wait, though, until I actually have a PS5 and I'm ready to play it, and then maybe I'll do an unboxing at that point. So if you're curious as to what's in this, I'm sure you can search up an unboxing that's out there already. Okay, so the thing that was more important to me, that's the highlight of my July and August pickups over that pretty cool thing, is another limited run games release. And this was a shocker for me. First of all, this was a shocker because this particular thing released on the Switch 4 or 5 years ago, and I was tempted to buy it even at the time that was either near the tail end of when I had well, the physical release may not have came out 5 years ago. That's when these came out on the Switch originally. Anyway, I was tempted to buy it for the Switch, but I want my important stuff to be PS4. And then eventually I didn't have a Switch anymore, and it just didn't make any sense. So I sincerely thought this was never going to end up on a platform that I could easily play it on, let alone PS4, which is my personal console of choice right now. So anyway, to stop yapping and show the game. This is the Grandia Collection. That's how I pronounce it. It's Grandia. Some people may call it Grandia. But this is the Grandia or Grandia HD Collection. This has Grandia 1 from the PS1, originally on the Saturn, but PS1 was where I played it. And then it's Grandia 2 which originally came out on the Dreamcast and then later came to the PS2. Of course, I didn't think to grab my copies of those. I have PS1 Grandia, I have PS2 Grandia 2, and the Dreamcast Grandia 2. Let me talk about Grandia 2 real fast. That is a game that I played a couple hours of it years ago on the Dreamcast, and it was fine. But nothing against that game, but it just wasn't moving me the way that the first Grandia game did on the PS1. That is one of my all-time favorite games. It's on my top 30 favorite games list. It's one of my 4 or 5. It's in my top 4 or 5 JRPGs from the PS1: Final Fantasy VII, Legend of Legaia, the Lunar games, Grandia, Xenogears, etc., etc. Grandia is just one of those games that was formative for me. It really informed my interest in video games at that time, when I was realizing that video games were more than just, lights and sounds and numbers and things moving around on a screen and top scores and all that shit, but that they were actually telling stories, that they were building worlds and presenting me with characters that I thought were amazing, and music that would sweep you into the story and take you on these epic journeys, that they were doing so much more than what movies and TV shows were doing. And I love movies and TV shows, but games are just interactive versions of that give you more purchase, more control, more immersion in those worlds and in those stories than any movies or TV shows could do. So that's where video games have a leg up. That's why I love Grandia. It was an epic journey of this young kid named Justin going out into the world to save the world. All these games, they're tropey, they're repetitive, they have a lot of cliches in them, but that journey and the things that happen along the way and the people that you meet, the relationships and bonds that form, whatever the end result of the game is, like I said, saving the world or whatever it may be, is kind of it's kind of the side dish to me what is the main course, which is that the tale, the journey, the epic adventure that you go on along the way. Grandia was just one of those games at the time that struck a particular chord with me, along with, like I said, Lunar, especially the first one, Final Fantasy VII, Legend of Legaia. Those games meant so much to me in the 90s, and I wasn't even a kid at that time. Like, I was already in my 20s, but gaming maybe really sunk its claws into me a little later than a lot of people. But this is just one of those things that I didn't think I would see, especially after it happened, but it was only on Switch. I didn't think I would have this in my hands, and that I would have the ability to sit down and pop this into my PS4 and play Grandia after all these years, because it's been a while since I've played a lot of those 90s PS1 JRPGs and a lot of PS1 games in general. It's been 15, 20, 30 years for some of this stuff since I last really delved in them. Would this still hold up as one of my all-time favorites? I don't really think I have to, even doubt that it still would. But now I get to do it in an easier way. Now I understand, I've already heard some people I already knew before with the Switch version that I believe this HD collection is one of these like regurgitated idea of take these old games and let's remaster them for mobile, for cell phones, for iPads and things of that nature, and for Steam and whatnot. I know people complain that the font, a lot like they did with the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters, that the fonts were changed and that they hated that and they thought that sucked. I don't really think, without having played it yet, I don't really think that a font change makes much of a difference to me. All that I really care is that the game is there, the story is there, the music is there. If things like music, voice acting, that kind of stuff has changed, then my opinion would change. But if I can still play that same old game with some minor like aesthetic changes, design changes to the fonts and whatnot, I'm not so bothered. And I wouldn't be upset if other things had changed, because I still have my original copy of the game. None of these things can change any of that. I preach that a lot though, so I'll keep that talk to a minimum. But man, this is dope to me. Grandia HD Collection on PS4, limited run. Did the Switch version originally, and there are like Japanese and Asian versions of it on Switch that you can get to, and I think it's possible that this may be available that way. But Limited Run also did an Xbox version of it, Xbox One, I believe, version of this too. So it's just cool that it's out there. Cool that more people will be able to hopefully check it out and experience for the first time what I'm going to get to relive with this here very, very soon, I hope. So anyway, those are my pickups, and I have something from Limited Run that said it's ready to ship, but with a week or 6 days left in the month, I don't think it's going to arrive. So that's why I went ahead and did this now. I was excited to kind of talk about this stuff now, since the month of August should be done as far as arrivals are concerned. Then we'll see what happens for September, because the only things I'm really going to have coming in are any of the limited games that I have that are just kind of floating out there. A lot of my stuff from Limited Run is October or later, except for this one thing that's supposed to be ready to ship. And then, and all those other companies, Strictly Limited and First Press and stuff like that, are, who knows, status is up in the air as to when that stuff's going to arrive. So I'm not going to put it out there that September for sure I'll be back with a month of pickups. If it's one or two or three things, I may cap it off. That may have to be the deciding factor from here on out. If I only have 2 or 3 things to show for a month, that's not enough in my opinion. If I get up to like 5, 6, 8, 10 things or more, obviously, then that makes for a better video in my opinion. So, anyway, that being said, I'll stop now. One last thing though, if you're still watching it, I have like 2 or 3 video ideas I'm thinking of doing. Some wrestling talk, some TV show and movie talk, maybe just a regular vlog. So I'm not going to say when they'll come out or even hardcore commit to doing them, but if I'm able to, I'm going to have some other stuff to drop here and there sometime in the near future. So look forward to that. Oh, and the reviews of games I've beat this year too. I need to get started on that as well. Maybe once I can flush Fallout 4 out of my system, a game I'm still loving, but I'm spending too much time on, maybe I can start on that too. Okay, that's it. I'm done. See you in the next one.